Good afternoon. It is my pleasure to welcome guest speaker Ratish Nanda and the members of the audience to INTAC for the second lecture in the series on Stepwells of India. Ratish Nanda is a conservation architect and is India's CEO for the Aga Khan Trust for Culture. The Aga Khan Trust for Culture has been responsible for implementing two major urban conservation projects in India at the Humayun's tomb, Nizamuddin area of Delhi, and at the Qutb Shahi tombs in Golconda. They have now undertaken the conservation of 9 historic Baolis across both the projects, coupling heritage and nature conservation. Once neglected and crumbling, these stepwells have been meticulously restored, even reconstructed, transforming them into functional water harvesting structures that collectively capture over 40 million liters of rainwater every monsoon. The conservation of these Baolis stands as a model of how conservation can integrate history, ecology, urban water security in rapidly growing cities. So, befittingly, in keeping with the theme of the series, today Ratish will talk about restoring the stepwells of Golconda. He also heads the interdisciplinary teams at the Aga Khan Trust for Culture. Presently, they are undertaking two major urban conservation projects: the Nizamuddin Urban no, wait. There are two good lines still to come. Renewal Initiative, Delhi, and Qutb Shahi Heritage Park Conservation in Hyderabad. He was earlier responsible for Bagh-e-Babar restoration 2002-2006 in Kabul, Afghanistan, and the garden restoration of Humayun's tomb under the Aga Khan Trust for Culture. And the best part is that I'm very happy to share that Ratish's association with INTAC goes back to 2000, and he was instrumental in getting INTAC's listing for Delhi published. And 1995, well, this is what I got from the archives. Sorry, my apologies. 1995. So there, more information being uploaded here. So he was responsible for part of the team for bringing up the building, and his association goes back to 1995. So Ratish, all yours now, and welcome back. Then I must say, come back.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here, and yeah, welcome back is right. It was in 1995 that we started trying to finish this building. So I spent many nights and days doing that, and then of course I've been deeply involved in Delhi chapter of INTAC for many years. Thank you for asking Manisha to give this talk on Baolis. I've never done a talk on Baolis before, so I had to apologize to Chairman Saab that I was still trying to finish my talk half an hour ago, and I couldn't meet you. But I hope I'm happy to answer questions at the end, or if you think it's absolutely pertinent, please feel free to sort of interrupt me. Critically, I think Baolis is something that we in the conservation world need to look at very carefully in India, because there is a direct, absolutely direct benefit of the work we do. Often it's unfortunate that even in the 21st century, we have to still make a case for conservation in India. We still have to make a case ki kyun hum purani building ko, why are we trying to save it? But nobody questions the need of restoring water. So this is a long-winded talk. I'm going to go like a bullet train. So forgive me for that. But our engagement at the Aga Khan Trust for Culture in India really started in 1997 with the garden restoration of Humayun's tomb. This project really finally initiated in 1999. But here too, water was an absolutely critical part of the conservation effort to restore the flowing water at Humayun's tomb. And this immediately led to almost 1,000% increase in visitor numbers at Humayun's tomb. So, what you were getting at about 160, 170,000 visitors a year, the year we finished the garden restoration, finished the restoration of flowing water, the figures went up to over 1.5 million people a year. And so again and again in giving these talks, one is, to a not to this sort of informed audience, but to a general audience, is making a case for conservation. And when you increase visitor numbers from 10 times over, there is a case for conservation. So this is Nizamuddin. I'm sorry, Manisha, I'm going to start with this Nizamuddin Baoli and not go to Golconda straight away. Now, Nizamuddin, this is a sketch by architect Himanish Das of what the Nizamuddin area would have looked like about 100 years ago. It no longer looks like this, as you all know. But the critical thing about the Nizamuddin area was the river Yamuna and all the tributaries of the Yamuna flowing into the Yamuna from this region. And we followed the garden restoration at Humayun's tomb with a much larger urban conservation project, which is and with three principal objectives of ecology and environment, of heritage, and of improving people's quality of life. So, and within this large urban, there have been about 200-300 individual projects that we've done, and this project area is really spread across 300 acres. 300 acres, including Sundar Nursery, Humayun's Tomb Complex, and Nizamuddin Basti. More recently, we also conserving the monuments in the golf club, so that spreads this area to about 500 acres. One of the key things, and this is true for the Baoli conservation also, one of the key things that we started at Humayun's Tomb way back in 2002, 2003 was that almost all the work is based on craftsmen. And these are not unskilled labor, they're really stone carvers. And what we've seen overall, that almost 85-90% of our conservation budgets go into craftsman wages. One of the biggest success of the project has been that we were able to expand the World Heritage Site of Humayun's Tomb from 26 acres to about 200 acres. Now, coming to the topic of the day, the Hazrat Nizamuddin Baoli. This was one of the first major challenges we faced in Nizamuddin. Now, when we started this project we signed this agreement in 2007, we were preceded by this this DC of the municipal corporation, who really modeled himself on Minister Jagmohan, this guy called Vijay Singh. So he had gone around telling the people of Nizamuddin Basti that, jahan makan hai, wahan main park banaunga, aur jahan park hai, wahan main makan banaunga. So he wanted these 70-storied buildings like American ghettos built on the periphery. So that is the situation under which we started engaging at Nizamuddin. And clearly the community was full of hatred, full of suspicion. So we didn't really get to. We thought it's best to start without getting into heritage, and we started doing health, education. We built a primary school, we built a polyclinic, we started doing urban improvements. But it's only when this Baoli, and this is a Daniel image, this Baoli, which has, that small image is quite famous, but photographed over centuries. Now, this was built really in the early 14th century. And there's a lot of folklore about this Baoli. It's said that Hazrat Nizamuddin Auliya himself commissioned this Baoli when Ghyasuddin Tughlaq was not allowing any construction to happen. So, wo pani mein diye jalaye, and pani converted into oil, and all of those lovely stories. So, this is considered sacred. However, in 2008, the dear thing collapsed. and you see the collapse in on the left picture. And what you also see on the right picture is there are about 80 people living atop the Baoli. And this collapse happened right under the main pathway to the Dargah, which is accessed by about 4 million people annually and about 10 to 15,000 people generally every day. And they were all walking over this. Under this condition, we invited our structural engineer from the UK to come and look at this collapse. He went in and he ran faster than Usain Bolt. When he saw this, he's like, nobody should be within 100 meters of this thing. The whole thing is going to sink. Which was, and this, this is the Baoli, this little thing over there. You can see my mouse. So it's really densely inhabited. The area around it is probably one of the most densely inhabited settlements in Delhi. And there are 20,000 living people, 20,000 moving people, floating population, as my colleagues call them. There's another view of the Baoli. So you can see that the Baoli is really the epicenter of a major historical urban fabric, which includes 10 centrally protected monuments and many, many dozens of unprotected monuments. Over the years, sadly, many buildings around the Baoli, many monuments, have been demolished and replaced with houses. But what is critical is that the Baoli is part of has great associated intangible heritage and is revered. The water, green, dirty, whatever it is collected every day by people who take it to cure people in their families who have diseases. I don't know whether it cures or not, but miraculously, this Baoli is full of water. And the Dargah is built right on the banks on the edge of the Baoli. So that's an architectural model. Those of you who've seen the Humayun's Tomb Museum would have seen the model. So you see the Baoli is really the entrance to the Dargah, and it's really made for wuzu and so on. And when we were conserving it, we found under this condition, this thing collapsed. And I've just finished telling you that this is considered sacred. And yet, when we started talking to the community, the first response was, "Isko bhar dete hain. Dargah ka rasta bada ho jayega." Means let's fill this up with earth, and the access to the Dargah is going to become much, much larger. Now, this has unfortunately been the case for hundreds of Baolis in Delhi over the last century. Now, hundreds might be an exaggeration, but there are at least 100 recorded Baolis in Delhi before the 20th century. By the 19th century, and out of which about 10 or 11 or 12 now survive. A lot of these, I have seen the Kotla Mubarakpur Baoli, which no longer exists. It's been built upon. I've seen the Mehrauli Baoli in my own life, which is now being built upon. So this, from the collapse to the commencement of conservation work, took us several years, and several meetings such as this with the stakeholder community. This was a community who traces their descent from Hazrat Nizamuddin Aulia himself, and who are managers of these sites. One of the men, no more now, but the Sajada Nashin, Ahmad Pir Nizami Sahab, he put a condition, and he said, "We will let you fix it," as if he was doing me a favor, but that's how it is. He said, "We'll let you fix it, provided you can clean the Baoli, because this is sacred to us and it needs cleaning." And within a second, I said, yeah, of course we'll clean it, not realizing that how many past attempts at cleaning it had failed. In the end, all machines failed, everything failed, and 8,000 man-days of work using buckets is what worked to remove about 40 feet of silt. So you can see the line of how much silt there was in the Baoli, and it was really cleaned like this. And so it was 8,000 man days of people just filling up sludge in buckets and taking it away. These are some archival photographs, some condition assessment, 20th, early 20, late 20th century drawing from the ASI archives, some of our own condition assessment drawings, and we were first because we were able to clean the silt. We were able to manage to map this Baoli and this incredible circular well. Coming back to the collapse, what had happened is the Archaeological Survey of India had placed a layer of epoxy on the walls of the Baoli. Now, this is a 2-inch thick layer, which is almost transparent but assumes this color. And that meant that they were basically treating the Baoli as a tank, saying, Pani aa gaya, usko andar rakho, without realizing that the water has to come from the stone joints. So we had to remove all of this scaffolding. There are some of this. So, in one of the slides, I say this is an ongoing project for us. We started in 2008, and in 2025-26, we continue to undertake this project. Because over the years, we've now fixed about 6 or 7 monuments on the Baoli edges. This we've still not been able to get our hands on. And but these are some of the buildings that we have started. So 80 people were found living on the rooftop. 80. And for these people, we had to build alternate accommodation. So all sorts of scientific tests, laser scanning, all sorts of earth analysis. We even had to relay the sewer pipes around the Baoli because the sewer was out. And then we engaged with the municipality for 5 years. On the bottom left is my former colleague Shweta Mathur, who led the relocation process, and we built 18 of these houses for these 80 people, and then removed all these layers and layers of epoxy, picked out the stone that had collapsed, put it back where it belonged, um, and essentially the whole face had to be hand woven. And so this is a before and after picture. A lot of people will say, ouch, green water. The green water is surprisingly clean. We test it quite often. It looks green, looks ugly because it's 75 feet of water right now. Right now, the Baoli, if you go to the Nizamuddin area right now, the water table is actually till here. So in the rains, this is really filled up with about 75 feet. This is a very happy story. This you see this house here, uh, and this was when it was built in the 1930s, 1940s. It was built by demolishing the arcade, and the Sajjada Nashin of the Dargah lived there, and he said, "Look, I'm sorry, my grandfather demolished part of this structure, and I realized it was wrong." This was a building which had approvals from NDMC or municipal, whatever it was called in those days. So he gave us this 6 feet of space. We rebuilt his building inside, and we reconstructed the arcade. So it was really, who gives up land easily. So this is what it was. This is what it became. And and as you see, some of these buildings, we continue to engage with these and repair them and so on. Golconda, coming to the sultans of Golconda, who are buried at the foot of the fort in this incredible necropolis. This used to be much, much, much larger, but about 106 acres now survives. There are 86 monuments that we have conserved in this site since 2014. We signed the MOU on the 9th of January 2013 with the government of Telangana. And on the 21st of January, some joker went to the Waqf tribunal and got a stay order. Since then, the same joker has filed 86 cases, and we continue to. There was a hearing in the Waqf tribunal today. So that has continued. Somehow, despite all of that, we've been able to finish the conservation works, but some other works, such as building of a site museum, remain stuck in litigation. Now, 86 monuments. This is the latest picture. It's a picture which shows a lot of green. But we really started this site in 2013. There are seats in the front, ma'am. If you want to come up, there are seats in the front. You're sitting at the back. There are lots of seats. So in 2013, we signed this agreement, and 1 year of court cases later, we were finally able to start work because the Baoli collapsed, which I will come to. But in doing the conservation work, we were forced to buy water in tankers. And imagine that you're working on a site that is 100 plus acres, has 80 plus monuments. That time, even the World Heritage nomination dossier then listed only 15, 16, but it was clearly that this was a densely built up site. So you can't buy water. I mean, Anu is sitting there, he'll say, what the hell, my water is more precious than your monuments. But that was one of the struggles we had with this site early on. Water is as much needed for conservation as construction or anything. सर यहाँ कुर्सी है आइए बीच में बैठ जाइए स्क्रीन ज़्यादा ठीक दिखे उधर बैठ जाइए So this we realized that the site had historic step wells. We realized the site had 8 historic step wells, and we started. Some were obvious, some were visible, like this big collapsed portion. This is the before and after image of the Badi Baoli. And we realized that if we are going to do any conservation on this site, we were absolutely needed to start collecting rainwater. So in all our excavation, scientific clearance of earth, whatever you call it, we were able to find an incredible archaeological heritage of aqueducts through the site, with each of the Baolis interconnected, or many of them interconnected with each other. We were not able to find 2 Baolis, which are known to have existed, but we were able to find 6 Baolis, and some of them are great monumental structures, and some of them, or most of them, were in this state of collapse. So and this is super daunting for anybody. And we were able to, when we started the site, there was very little understanding of the site and next to no archival images. These were provided by Al-Qazi after much research, and these show the Badi Baoli. So these 2 images are of the Badi Baoli, which I've been showing, and you will wonder why and how these are the Badi Baoli images, because these images look nothing like that image. But here you go. That dome is actually the dome in the background of this one. And what this archival image really told us was that this arcade was later, possibly a Salarjung addition in the 19th century. And similarly for the next image, you can see behind the trees the same domes are visible. So again, the arcade, so essentially when this Baoli was built, it was really a tank in the stone, in the rock. And unlike Delhi, where there is groundwater, where there are aquifers, these are not dependent on groundwater aquifers. This is all granite country, and these Baolis to fill up were either dependent on rain or aqueducts from a nearby lake supplying water to the fortress of Golconda. So we did the usual architectural drawings, the condition assessments, and we realized that people had watched this Baoli collapse. So we had recent photographs and all of that. We watched the Baoli collapse because 10 days after we signed an agreement, the Waqf Tribunal stayed the whole project on various, and the abuse of the judicial system continues. I mean, our battery of lawyers over the years, 4 cases in Supreme Court, High Court, Waqf Tribunal every month to do this work. Again, Stewart came from the UK to do a structural assessment, and we realized many problems with the Baoli. One was the rock itself had disintegrated. So there was no way this was going to be a routine repair. It needed some heavy reinforcements in the foundations, including a reinforced cement concrete base, which conservationists generally frown upon. So this is how we started. I mean, I'm so glad this is over. But it took us 3 years of rebuilding the salvaging the stone from the foot of the Baoli, rising it up, and raising it to the ground, and rebuilding this wall bit by bit, stone by stone. And then this picture on the right is very critical. One of the problems, of course, was that the rock itself was disintegrating. But the other key problem was that the arcade had been built by Salar Jung on top of a sort of a tank in the rock, and the water that was coming towards the Baoli was really pushing at this arcade, was really pushing the arcade in. So we built a huge tank outside the Baoli, and so the rainwater that collects and flows at great speed towards the Baoli, it is actually collected outside the structure, and from underground it's brought into the Baoli. So this is the completion of the arcade. This required 600 cubic meters of stone masonry. This is equal to 150 truckloads of stone masonry. So it was a major undertaking. But it's granite. Um, but this is how it is now, and this is how it was yesterday. So the water has come up, and the Baoli is full. And this year, what we'd done is we'd cleaned the Baoli till the bottom, leaving the bottom 1 foot for the turtles and the fish. And thinking that let's see how much water is collected, because the site is now net zero for water consumption. This has about 3.5 million liters of water. Now, put any number to that. Any number. Rupees 1 a liter, 2 a liter. We were buying water at 2 rupees a liter 15 years ago. And all of a sudden, I'm used to saying this to non-conservation people, so I'm here preaching to the converted. But there is a case for conservation, because the money we've spent on the conservation is recovered in less than 3-4 years by just the cost of water alone. Anyway, I am going to go to the next Baoli, which is by far my favorite. It is the Baoli, which is probably the earliest building in this complex. It's called the Eidgah Baoli. You saw that as a cover slide. In the background, you see Golconda. So you see we are only about 100 meters away from Golconda. Now, what is exciting about this Baoli is that it's built with huge blocks of dressed granite stone, going all the way 7 floors below the ground. It's like if this was building standing above the ground, it would rival the Charminar. It is 7 floors of beautiful dressed granite. Of course, when you have dressed granite and it's really deep, people have taken it away. The stone itself has value. So our big problem here was to really put these beautiful big blocks of granite back. There were also some pretty mosaics and stucco works and all of that, but the key concern here, like with all our Baoli projects, somehow people are doing Baoli projects, including in Hyderabad, and making sure there's no water ever, lighting it up till the very bottom, and somehow that is being celebrated. As a conservation architect, that seems so wrong, but that's for Intact to talk about. This is the Baoli, and so a lot of this granite was simply missing. Just look at the thickness of those stones. This is, as I said, the granite capital of the universe, and it's pictures like this which Should we switch on these lights? Is it possible? Okay, because I think the lights are interfering with the image. Okay. And this was the absolute critical thing with putting back tons and tons of this hand dressed granite stone to restore. And these are the easy bits to remove. सीढ़ी से पत्थर चोरी कर लिया and all of that. But this is the Baoli, um, and very very fulfilling, as you can imagine. This is again a photograph taken yesterday, and you can see the water. You can see that the water has covered these steps. So these are the entrance steps. So this Baoli is full. It's got about 4 million liters of water. And now this doesn't happen automatically. We had to regrade 100 acres of land. We had to regrade 100 acres of land to make sure. And this is what, sorry to do this, but um, I'm sorry to do this, but I should have mentioned this earlier. This is what this drawing did. This drawing basically identified the catchment area for the 6 Baolis that we were able to restore. So across this large catchment area, we were able to regrade the earth so that the rainwater, because now it's the only source of water is rainwater. So we regraded the earth so the rainwater collects in these Baolis once again. Again, and each of these Baolis is very interesting. So this is Baoli, and we simply call it Western Baoli. I'm sure somebody will find a more um, you know nicer name for it. But again, this was largely filled up with silt. So, and in a very very ruinous, half collapsed structure, you can see the amount of rubble just lying around. And we took many months to be able to clean this. And you can see it's just rock face. So whoever's built it has just basically gone down in the rock and doesn't need to do anything else. So it's no groundwater that's coming in. I'm sorry, I'm repeating myself. But large Baoli, and you can see how arid everything around it is. And then to desilt this, we were able to remove about 20 feet of accumulated material here. And then the usual reconstruction, restoration. And this was a great discovery. This is the aqueduct that originally ran from a lake called Durgam Cheru to Golconda. And on the way to Golconda, there is a sort of outlet towards what we call the Eastern Baoli, the Western Baoli. And we were able to, and this aqueduct sadly only survives now within the Qutb Shahi tombs because area around it has all been built up. So we were able to clean this aqueduct, map it, and this is yesterday's, or no, this is yesterday's picture, which shows almost 40-50 feet of water in the Baoli. This is a laser scan of a major archaeological excavation that we carried out here, and we found a settlement that predated the Qutb Shahi tombs, that predated the necropolis. There were remains of mosques and so on, but there was also a Baoli, which we call Hammam Baoli simply because it's connected to a hammam. The general belief is that the bodies of the kings were bathed in this hammam before burial. But the hammam is extremely elaborate, and it could well be a functioning hammam predating the necropolis, predating the burial here. So once we were able to clean the Baoli and so on, this is one of the largest Baoli, and or the largest in the sense of quantity of water it can hold. And it is only yesterday that for the first time ever this has got filled up to the brim. So this is about 6 million liters of water, and first time ever that, with the heavy rains that we are getting across the country now, this is today filled. And a lot of this, I'm not going to show the same slides again and again, but a lot of this work was really about underpinning the masonry and so on. So and to be structurally intact. That is also a Baoli, and the only thing remained was a little bit of construction that you or stone masonry that you see. Now, for some strange reason, these were all filled up and left to die. But fortunately, our need for water was extremely, extremely strong. And once we were able to find the rock face, we were able to find more masonries. But to cut a long story short, that is a before and after of the same Baoli. We were also able to, again, this is recent pictures, but we were able to create a garden around the Baoli and create a sort of a performance zone. So this has become the sort of, in the good old days, a lot of the Baolis like Rajon Ki Baoli and Mehroli and so on were really used as community spaces. These are places where people gathered. And similarly, this portion is where the site is open to morning walkers at 5:30 or so. This is where they all gather every day. So, I mean, I don't have a picture, but it's at the entrance of the site, and it's become a place of community. That too is a Baoli. This is picture taken after, and we did this sort of clearance work looking for odd 8 Baolis. Now we have archival images that show us another Baoli, the 7th Baoli, and we excavated everywhere. We have an image. We have an image of the Baoli. We know which building it's next to. We can see all of that. We could not even find a single stone. So in that case, somebody seems to have sort of taken away by truckloads all the stone that was used, the granite that was used for the construction. But this, we were lucky. We found this remains. And then we found a lot of this. Unfortunately, we had to dismantle not that wall, but the side walls. We had to dismantle because they were in no state to really be repaired, and we had to dismantle and reconstruct these. And there are these tall walls which would not have survived, especially because all of this, remember, this was all earth. So we've gone down, and there are large trees which are growing on the wall next to it. So we had to put a whole series of buttresses on the wall, rebuild construction, and so it's these are just before and during pictures, and building of the buttresses, and going down to the rock face. So mind you, this is as I said 3 times already, granite capital of the universe. And when you look at a picture like this, you're bound to ask, are you sure this is a Baoli? And yes, we're sure, because when you start removing, you're not hitting any rock. You're only removing sludge and earth, and the rock is all original. So a lot of this masonry is built on top of granite boulders. And so here we are, and so this is, it's these were absolutely critical, not only as monuments, to conserve monuments, but also to collect rainwater. And again, the customary picture from yesterday, which has gone higher than ever before. So, and if you look at if you look at the previous pictures, what we did is, outside the Baoli, we built other walls. We built a series of terraces all around the Baoli, realizing that this Baoli had a large catchment area, and it could hold much more water than just itself. And that's what you see happening yesterday. So there are 2 terraces beyond the Baoli that are also now full of water. So UNESCO recognized this effort, and it's been very interesting to see how many the Telangana government has now pledged that 100 Baolis are going to be restored, which would be great, and especially if we can regrade the earth around it. And one has often wondered why all the tall buildings next to Agrasen Ki Baoli don't just drain into that Baoli. Um, but the impact of this is a before picture. You can see the site barren, green, and now it is green. And thanks to all of this water that we have been able to collect. Now I know, for example, that I'm sitting there on about 35 million liters of water, which is enough for me to irrigate the 10,000 trees we've already planted and possibly plant another 3-4,000 over there, and the 106-acre site. This is just a pretty picture, or a sad picture, which is going to become a pretty picture. This was recently, we fixed this. This is outside the site in the center of Hyderabad. We were able to quickly fix this little Baoli called Saidnama Baoli, and this cost next to nothing, but we were able to, as you can see, it was filled up, and the Mutawalli of this area wanted to fix his great aunt's tomb or whatever that stands on the site, but did not want to conserve this. So we made it conditional that we will conserve the tomb, which he really wanted conservation of, only if he allows us to conserve the Baoli, which we could see is being filled up to be built upon later. So this is what it now is. More recently, this is coming back to Delhi. Sorry to confuse everybody, but just 2 or 3 pictures of what was on the verge of collapse, Baoli in the Humayun's Tomb complex. Problem is there is a new building right adjacent to it, but we were able to dismantle the walls which were bulging, re-erect them, and I don't have pictures full of water, but this Baoli is, as of now, full of water. Again, it required regrading the whole Arab Sarai area to make sure the water, and we found another well, which we also desilted to 45 feet depth. There are about 13 wells that we found in the Nizamuddin, Humayun's Tomb, Sundar Nursery area that were all filled up, that have been desilted along with all of this. Craftsman is king. We've just in the Baolis, we've done over 1 million man days of work. It takes an interdisciplinary team to do some of this, and there are people of all sorts of disciplines here, without which we couldn't do anything much. So thank you. I am told I'm going to be taking questions. So any questions, I'm happy to take questions.
Ratish, I want to know that the water that gets collected in the Baolis, how do you ensure that doesn't get infested with, all kinds of
Fish.
Worms and
Fish.
mosquitoes, fish.
All the Baolis are full of fish, including the Nizamuddin Baoli.
And that becomes the natural food. You don't feed them, per se.
We don't feed them anything. There are people who come and feed, but they're not dependent on that.
And what is your system of taking water out to irrigate, like you said, in the Golconda complex?
Might be very romantic to say buckets, but we use pumps.
Very exciting to hear from a practitioner, because often we talk about the idealism and theories, but when you see the results on the ground, it's really very, very exciting. And I think compliments to you for your dedication and results which you are showing. My only question is that in spite of all the efforts, most of the Baolis have very dirty water, or are the very scant water. What is the reason? Can
So
we?
actually, it's not. I mean, unless you start throwing kuda in it, which happens in the Nizamuddin Baoli, it's not dirty. We have often monitored the quality of water, and unfortunately, because it's green and it looks dirty, what has happened is that people have tried to address it. So at one point, we found hundreds of big fish in the Nizamuddin just floating dead. And one of the pilgrims came there and said, "This is dirty, let me clean it." He sent a whole truck of ammonia. They dumped it. Everything died. So the water quality looks bad because it's green and the sunlight is not getting to it. But the chemical quality of water is not so bad.
Which are in the periphery and the fresh trees which can fresh water, which can absorb water. Is that true?
I don't know about that. I mean, there must be other people who can answer that. The quality of water here really depends on the amount of sunlight getting to it and the amount of, people not. Manu is going to answer that.
No, I'm not going to answer that. But actually, I had a kind of a suggestion. You said that you're pumping out the water,
G.
but it could be quite romantic to install Persian wheels.
G.
Just a suggestion over
Yes.
there. It could really go with the scene.
Yeah. The problem is I don't have a romantic bone in my body, so. uh, but you're right. We are thinking of putting a Persian wheel in one of the wells in the Nizamuddin Baoli. These Baolis were never used with Persian wheels. They had the whole red system. So a lot of that, I'm sorry, I should have shown that. But the pulling out system was ramps. The Idgah Baoli, the Badi Baoli, they all have these ramps. And as does the Eastern Baoli. So they have these ramps for animals to go up and down. And these days, animal right activists, you can't suggest that a buffalo does any of this work anymore. But yeah, we are, for the sake of, showing people how it was, I've been thinking for many years to put a Persian wheel in one of the wells in Sundar Nursery. Yes. Sorry. Yeah, there is a mic here once. Yeah.
Towards the end, you showed a slide which said, from the support of the Sunteng Foundation, I think the third last or fourth last slide, 2022, it said at the right hand corner bottom, supported by Sunteng Foundation.
I have never heard of anything called
with
Sunteng.
something like with Chinese writing below it.
There must be something on the screen because there's no Chinese writing in any of my slides.
So I was wondering, what is this Chinese foundation that's supporting
No.
your work?
It's I mean, you're not taking any drugs, are you?
No. Can you just go back, please? I'm absolutely certain of it.
So, I'm sorry, there was nothing like that.
No, fourth or fifth last slide.
Yeah, madam.
Was the water ever meant to be drunk, suitable for drinking? This water.
Absolutely, yeah.
But how can you drink it if it's dirty?
You collect it in a vessel, put it on your mouth, and drink it. No, but it's very clean water. It's aquifer. It's there. I mean, some of the tests that we did on the Nizamuddin Basti Baoli water was purer than what you get on your taps, much purer. And these are still being fed by aquifers, not the rain-fed ones where water collects, and I don't know we've never used them for drinking, but in Nizamuddin it is used for drinking. Still is.
Thank you, sir, for your talk. I want to know to what use is this water being put to?
Irrigation.
Mostly, yes. So how does it happen, like to transport the water from the Baolis to the farms?
The site is 106 acres.
So are they using trucks to transport water?
Pumps
or
and pipes.
Pumps and pipes, okay. But the same question is that for drinking, like, isn't it algae that is there in the water because of which it is green? So that makes it unfit to drink.
The green is from Nizamuddin Baoli. Okay. There are other Baolis, and the green is because of the depth and the way it reflects. There is no algae in it. There might be some collection on the walls, but not really. None of these other Baolis, I mean, at least I don't know. There might be people drinking water from the Golconda Baolis, but I'm not sure about that. That is mostly going for irrigation. The Baoli, the water in the Nizamuddin Baoli is considered sacred and people collect it for drinking.
So it is being sold like...
No, it's being collected by people. You can go there, pick up your
for
own
irrigation it is being sold?
No,
or...
it is on the same site. The site, it's used for irrigation. The Qutb Shahi tombs stand on a 106-acre site where we have now put in over 11,000 trees, over 10,000, almost 11,000 trees. They need irrigation, as does the grass and all of that. So these Baolis, the water is used for irrigation of the site itself. It doesn't go out of the site.
Okay, thank you.
Ritesh, you said that the kind of a catchment or watershed for each Baoli was studied. Did you also have the rock fractures examined as to whether the water is seeping in through those fractures, and it would give a good idea as to the understanding of the maker's original understanding of the site geology?
We do know that the water is seeping through. And
whether by design or it just happened?
No, it's unlikely to be of design because these were really made as water tanks, contrary to the North Indian Baolis. But we do know that it's seeping through, and that's because it's turning up where it shouldn't. And we also know that this area, the 106-acre site, catches much more rainwater than the 40 million that we can hold. So we have created another lake, which I did not want to spend more time talking about. But this year, even that has spilled over. So we're now connecting this to the Golconda moat so that, all excess rain doesn't go into the sewer lines. But yes, it is during times of rain, it does percolate after a certain depth is reached. Absolutely. On a site like these, both Delhi and Hyderabad, the conservation plan is as good as, it was as good as it was yesterday. But we are still looking for, we found over here also 2 wells. When we started, we were told this is 7 tombs. The World Heritage nomination dossier said 16 monuments. So we now have 86 monuments, 150 graves, orchards, enclosed gardens, all sorts of things and every day, it's every day. We have had phenomenal partnership with the government of Telangana. Our biggest thorn in our whatever has been this abuse of the judicial system, where, and I wish somebody would record this and I would be arrested for it because that will create the controversy required. But this is all to sort of, basically try to get us to pay somebody off, which we've never done. But the judicial system is such in India that you can keep filing case after case. I've had a case because why have you put a rainwater spout when there none existed? So, on a historic building. So we've had one person looking to extort money and just going on and on about it. That has been the biggest, otherwise it's been not even a headache, it's been the biggest sort of, it's taken a bit of the joy away of doing something like this.
You said that there were 100 Baolis in Delhi and only 10 are surviving. What led to the vanishing of those?
Manisha ji will have to call me again to give another talk on that.
Vanishing of those.
Today's talk doesn't cover that.
And you did mention this.
Yeah.
And 10 are protected by survivors, this inheritors who inherited. So what led to this vanishing of those?
He said he'll need to be invited again to do a presentation on that, sir. And on that cue, we'll close this session today. Ritesh, thank you so much. we have a very, wait, don't go. We have a very small token of appreciation for you. May I invite our chairman to hand it to Ratish? And may I also invite member secretary to give a few publications from INTAC to Ratish. Thank you for that. We have bags for you.